Hello, I'm Philip Stoten. I'm here on the SCOOPstudio at Apex 2019, and I'm joined by Markus from REHM and Jason from Aegis to talk about the subject of augmented reality in an SMT environment. Markus, I wanted to start with you. You were one of the first companies to bring out an augmented reality solution around your ovens. Tell me a bit about how that works and what the customer's response has been.
The first idea was just to split the view with to share the view with other person, that two person can communicate about the same problem, yes, or the same view, and this was the first idea, yes.
Okay. And is that used in like a maintenance environment? So the customer's got the headset on, and your engineer's able to view alongside
Yes,
them?
yes. This was, as I told you, the first idea that the customer has such a headset on, and then he has his hands free, yes, and can make a support call to us, and we can help him, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but on the second point, yes, we implement also such kind of maintenance scenario. Yeah. So if it's a little bit more efficiency, of course, or we spend a lot of time in that, and we are on a point that the system recognize the machine where the position, if the position is correct. So if the person has a maintenance instruction, the system will recognize if he is on the right position. So if you're on the front side and he have to open a door on the back side, an arrow will show him that he'll go to the back side, and will guide him to the correct position. Yes.
Okay. And Jason, well, I think what's interesting when I look at it from an Aegis point of view, I always thought of Aegis as one of these companies that has made step changes in the industry, and you were one of the key players that went from paper instructions to having a completely paperless environment. And I've been in environments that have got factory logics where there isn't a sheet of paper in the whole building and all their instructions come down. Next stage is saying, okay, well, it's great we've got it on the screens, but there are some instances where you can't use the screen. So where do you go from there?
That's correct. Is the way factory optics came to be was customer driven, as most things are. Is at first in the discrete assembly world, where you have massive assemblies like wings or commercial aircraft and so forth, there are and actually satellite manufacturing in some cases, space mirrors. There's practical considerations of how do you provide digital work instructions to someone who's up on a gantry 20 feet in the air and both arms and hands are operating on the product. There's nowhere to put a computer inside a wing section, things like that. So factory optics was originally developed for those applications, but as it turns out, in electronics assembly, there's more applications for it than one might think, like cabinets and wire assembly, and it's all about wherever there's either not the ability to have a user interface or it's a lot of focus differential for the operator. They're going from wiring a cabinet and then they're trying to refocus into a work instruction. That's very difficult when it's repetitive, and it solves those things. But yesterday in a user conference we had an application for packaging and shipping came up, which we hadn't envisioned, but the system actually fundamentally supports that anyway. So it seems to us that there's more applications than we originally thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at that packaging one, it's really interesting because it can actually visually scan what's in the box, say the right stuff's in the box or you've missed something, and it actually gives you another element of traceability, which is fundamentally important.
And I think you've seen the demonstration, everything the operator is doing through factory optics. The operator doesn't realize that while they're doing all this through a neat visor, they're building up the entire device history record.
Yeah, so that's really important. And when you look at it from REHM's point of view, when you're doing that maintenance on the product, again, is that something that's giving you more information on products that are in the field, fringe benefits in terms of how better to design products in terms of maintenance?
Yeah, we have currently often the situation that maintenance is made by third-party companies, made maybe on a Saturday, and people change often, so it's very important that we show how the machines have to be maintained.
Yeah. And when I look at it from an oven point of view, I kind of, everything that's going on in the oven is going on behind closed doors. Is there a way to use augmented reality in the way the operator views the oven as well, rather than viewing a panel? Are there options there? Are there further developments coming on the augmented reality side?
Yeah, there are other developments also. Idea, yeah. So we have the idea that the customer can implement their own instructions. Yeah. So if they have a special process or special instructions, or if they have special situations, they can implement that. Yeah. And they can put in, of course, pictures and arrows, so the arrows show exact to that black who have to take off, or which door have to be opened, and so on. And yes, that's the idea.
So they build up their own work instructions, and that's what I'm curious about from your point of view, Jason. You go from a paper instruction to a instruction on screen, then you've got to kind of redevelop that instruction somehow for whatever augmented reality tool you're using, and they're your customers' instructions. How challenging is that process for them?
That was actually a huge design project of ours, was to not force the customer into a situation where they have to do something completely novel that they're not used to in our platform for visual documentation. So fortunately, Factory Logic's documentation in general, the user interface on the factory floor can be configured by the manufacturing engineering department to be different at every station. So if you think about it, an augmented reality interface is just a miniaturized visual work instruction, very much like paper on glass in any other situation. So any work instructions they currently have and the step-through activities and so forth are actually portable to the Factory Optics interface. It really wasn't a big leap on that side.
Yeah.
It was more of the hardware and the software in the visor itself is where the novel work is done.
And the other part that I find interesting is it's you refer to it as factory optics, but it's not just about the optics. You're actually using voice recognition in that process as well. So they're paging through instructions by voice.
That's a very good point, because again, going back to the design objective was to, when people do not have their hands to operate a traditional user interface, it had to be voice guided, because then it defeats the whole purpose, right? If you're reaching up to an interface or you have something to clicking, that hand's not free anymore. So Factory Optics is completely driven by voice, and then its camera systems do all the scanning, so there's no barcode scanner. There is nothing except the visor on the head, and you can do your job.
Yeah, and Markus, do you see that as kind of part of the future, where operators are using kind of heads-up displays and they're using voice recognition, and it's less about control panels?
Yeah, this is the idea behind, yes. And of course, it depends how much time you spend in everything, yeah, because it's maybe different. As a plane is equal, yeah. So you build maybe a plane maybe 10 years or 20 years, but a machine it changes always, yeah. So it costs, of course, a lot of time, yeah, to implement everything, yeah. So
And what I think is fascinating, Jason, just to end with you, is that Aegis was very well known in the EMS space, moved into a lot of other industries. Bringing stuff from those other industries back to EMS and improving that's something that must be really satisfying for you guys.
It is amazing in the discrete manufacturing world versus electronics how there isn't a lot of cross-pollination of learned skill. And we see things that challenges in electronics that have been conquered here are still being grappled with in discrete. To them, it's a huge issue. The high mix situation we grapple with is something that in the aerospace industry is actually, almost to your point, is now they're seeing it in the manufacturing, repair, and overhaul, where things are coming back into that. That's a completely dynamic environment, which is a real challenge there. But we've kind of conquered it in electronics, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it's nice to bring those together and see that benefit. Gentlemen, thanks for talking to me. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.